All right, good evening, Midwest Star Wars Fanatics, and welcome back to another Midwest Star Wars Fanatics Live. It's your host, Greg Evans here, Star Wars Nerd 574, with my co-host here, Travis, the Indiana Sloan. We got a lot to talk about again this week. We had the Book of Boba Fett, episode 4, which was just, again, I thought was really good. Of course, depends on what website or Facebook group you look at. It seems to be a very mixed feeling on the whole series, but overall, again, like I said, we're going to talk about the Book of Boba Fett. So episode 4 came out. Before we kind of get deep into it, Travis, what were your thoughts, just really quickly, of this episode?
I liked it. I think a couple of things we talked about the last episode we did sort of came to fruition. Um, so it was good to see. I think some people complained a little bit like the flashback was longer than previous flashbacks, but
Yeah,
I think that these were questions that people were still always going to have. So it was like, I think a good way to, all right, let's just go knock out the things off the checklist we need to take care of. And it was exciting. I think it showed even in the flashback, the action was good. Yeah, overall, no complaints at all. Probably one of my favorite episodes actually of the series so far.
yeah, I'm gonna agree. I think it was probably one of the best ones so far. And then kind of like we mentioned last episode, like the last episode, is that just like WandaVision and everything else, it took a little bit for fans to really catch on to it and kind of go from there. I think this will probably be our last flashback. At least I'm kind of guessing, since Bo was looking pretty good now that he's all healed up and everything. Um, but going into those flashbacks, we're going to talk a little bit, because obviously this episode kind of is interesting because a couple things. For one, we go back a lot to the Mandalorian during that time. I mean, you can tell now where we're kind of on the timeline with everything with these flashbacks and
Mhm.
going there. So one of the first things we'll talk about is when Boba Fett found Fennec, which, I'm sorry for the picture here. It looks like it was a little large, so her face is cut off, but you guys get the picture. But so we get that Mando music going when you see the little flares going up, which is kind of cool. You kind of get that mixed in with the music, and you kind of see what's going on. Um but we kind of all knew in the Mandalorian that it was Boba Fett at the time that got Finnick.
Mhm.
But what I thought was really interesting, and we're going to kind of get into both sides here, is how he saved her going into the mod shop. Now, this is where a lot of people still had some issues. So Travis and everybody out there, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. We would love to answer them and get your feedback as well. But Travis, I mean, what were your thoughts about this? So we picked up Finnick. He takes her to the mod shop, and we kind of go from there.
Mhm. Yeah, I guess that was kind of one of the big unanswered questions was, okay, we know he finds Finnick. How does Finnick get, rebuilt with the mechanical guts? I was not expecting the mod shop crew to be the way that occurred. They kind of introduced them in the previous episode with the, Vespa scooter gang. Um, so I didn't realize that, Boba already had some past encounters with this. I guess that was a group out of Mos Eisley, though, I think, instead of
Yeah.
Mos Espa. But apparently this mod crew is like all over Tatooine. Um, so it made sense. I guess it was kind of a, looking back on it, I guess maybe I should have seen this coming because they kind of set up with them and the droid parts and enhancing their bodies. Like, oh, well, Finnick has mechanical parts.
Yeah.
And so it kind of paid that off. It's kind of, Chekhov's gun sort of situation when they introduced it and then paid it off a little bit later. But yeah, no, I know, yeah, I know people just have really, really passionate reactions and thoughts when it comes to the mod gang. So I think anything related to them is going to be either you accept it and you deal with it, or you're just like, nope, nope, I hate this, and going to be upset.
Yep. And it was different. And a lot of the complaints I've seen online and everything is about all the music they were playing, and it look too new. Well, it's a mod shop. It's going to look new. They're modding themselves to look like droids. So there is going to be that different look that we're not used to in Star Wars. So I thought it was kind of neat and pretty excited about that. Got our first comment through here. Kevin just said, "Nice shirt." Yes, this is from one of my friends, Kevin from North Legion. So definitely enjoy the shirt, Kevin. So a nice shout out to you as well out there.
Well, if I knew Kevin was gonna be watching, I would have worn my Mandalorian shirt that I picked up at C2E2.
But yeah, it was definitely different, you know. And Finnick obviously, you know, once she woke up and realized that she was, you know, saved, she went back to that bounty hunter mentality and was like, you know, what do you want from me? Why did you save me? Why am I worth more alive than dead? You know, and this is where we get the show gets really interesting. Not only do we go back to Jabba's palace again, we see Slave One again, and it's that whole adventure there. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And again, anybody wants to chime in, we'd love to know your thoughts on everything we've talked about so far, and any questions or any speculations that you guys see as well. But let's talk a little bit about this. So we're going back into Jabba's palace to pick up Slave One. Very interesting tactics getting in there. We got a couple little Easter eggs as well. So we'll kind of go on that, Travis. I mean, what did you think about the scene? This was a pretty cool transition to get the ship back?
Yeah. I mean, I think as far as individual scenes go, I think the train job from episode 2, I think it was episode 2 or 3, is probably still my favorite sort of, sequence. But this is right there behind it, like a 1A, 1B sort of situation. I just thought the action was really well done. Seeing Finnick be that, master assassin, sort of living up to the name of a master assassin, and just picking off people left and right, going hand-to-hand combat with Gamorreans. And it was just a really cool action sequence. The whole stealing the ship back. And again, probably one of my favorite sequences in the whole series so far for sure.
And then and the droid, you had the chef droid there that was chopping up some broccoli and stuff, and the little Grievous kind of shout out as well. Which also, I believe that droid was also in, I believe it was Attack of the Clones or one of the other ones. So it was kind of like throwback from the droid there. So that was kind of a cool shout out for Grievous and everything. And too bad Kenobi wasn't around to see that. He probably would have enjoyed that one there. But obviously, we're seeing how resourceful Finnick is. I mean, obviously, the weapons and tools she has to get through the bars. It seems like that gun of hers has like a new toy on it every time. We're starting to see it now, either from a knife or that weapon that cut everything. So I mean, she's really into it. We get Slave One, it picks it up. Kind of beats it up a little bit, getting out there, a little rusty takeoff, but. What I find really interesting is this next sequence. So, Boba Fett, it's kind of like a shout out to Anakin in a way from when he couldn't control his emotions. And I know that when I say this was pretty dark for Disney, and I was so glad that they added it. But Boba's coming back with Slave One to get some revenge on the little speeder gang here. So, I mean, that scene was they had no chance. So I thought that was pretty hardcore there. I mean, Travis, what did you guys see? And also everybody else there, what did you think as well?
Yeah, I mean, definitely knew there was going to be some revenge on Boba Fett's mind at some point. I thought, maybe it'd be one of those things where like he and Finnick, bust into like a bar, and take them all out. I didn't know he was going to go, to your point, kind of full. Nope, not a fair fight per se. Just you've got it coming. I'm going to just shoot you out of the sky with my ship. Yeah, I mean they definitely had absolutely no chance to survive that one. And maybe we'll talk about it here. I'm not sure, but one of the interesting comments I thought, rewinding timeline back a little bit to when Finnick and Boba were at the camp, and Boba talked about how the swoop bike gang took out the Tuskens, and Finnick was like, doesn't seem likely. And, when you think about it, like, there were no dead biker gang members. So it'd be hard to believe that the Tusken Raiders didn't take out a single one.
Yeah.
So is there, kind of we talked about last time, more than meets the eye, potentially? Is there some bigger players involved in all of this, and these guys were just kind of either involved or made the scapegoats for it?
It's kind of like a thought back to A New Hope, where the Jawa was made to believe that the Tusken Raiders attacked the Jawas, and did that biker gang make that attack? Obviously, there's a lot more going on than what we expect, and I think a lot of people are missing that. This is kind of an introduction. I mean, we don't know if we're going to get more seasons of the show or not. I hope we
Hmm.
do, but at the same time, we're setting up for something big, which we can tell. But the part I want to talk about is I can't believe he did this part. So after you get Slave One, and you're sitting back, so obviously he had his memory jogged a little bit and um, couldn't remember where his Beskar armor was at. Let's see. Michael Schuette's watching. Mike, thanks for stopping in and saying. So Boba and Fennec head over to the Sarlacc pit, um, which first of all was really cool when we got to see all the destruction again of the sand barge and Jabba's palace and everything,
Hmm.
or Jabba's palace. I'm sorry, Jabba's ship and all the the stuff that was over there. But then he had the bright idea, just let's take our ship and put the cockpit in as far as we can, and let's look into the Sarlacc pit. So obviously we all knew what was going to happen, but it was just funny and it's like kind of like, Bowie, you did not learn your lesson the first time. I mean, what did you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it was. I guess I'll appreciate it for the fact that it was a really cool shot to like shoot from inside the Sarlacc pit, looking
Yeah,
out as Boba like slowly starts to fill the frame in. So that was really cool from cinematography sort of standpoint. But yeah, I was really confused a little bit. I mean, I guess if I burrowed my way out of a Sarlacc pit in the middle of the desert after almost being eaten alive, maybe I had a concussion, some short term memory loss, but like he woke up, got knocked out by the Jawa. Like I don't know why he thought his armor was back inside the Sarlacc, but
yeah.
I guess I'll forgive it. He didn't quite recall 100%, but yeah, it was not the greatest well thought out plan from Boba to let me
Yeah,
put
let's
my
just get
ship
let's just
down next to this monster with tentacles and hope that I can find my armor.
yeah, let's just get back in there and get stuck in it again. That's just what the thing to do. But what was cool though is we obviously know that the Sarlaccs are very well protected in the sand from lasers, but there's nothing like a semisonic charge will go ahead and take care of things. So of course, it's always cool to see one of those things go off and the sounds of that, and then takes you back,
Yeah.
to when we first to the prequels and everything else there. So definitely interesting. Goes back, realizes that his armor's not there. Um, the one thing that I wish we kind of would have got from this scene, um, and got to when he was looking for his armor is, I mean, how did he start tracking Mando? How did did she tell him? Are we just going to get some flashbacks from that on the next one? Just
Yeah,
what's going on?
that's
Because
the one. Yeah, no, I mean that's the one kind of I guess dangling thread out there still is at some point he sees Mando. And I
yeah,
remember if it's been a while since I watched season 2, so correct me if I'm wrong, but almost positive that when he found Mando and tracked him to that planet, he said, "I want give me that armor." He said, "No, the armor you took from Cobb Vanth." So
yeah,
somehow Boba knows at some point that Cobb Vanth has that armor.
yeah.
So that's the one still, open question of okay, how did he how do those dots connect that he knew Cobb Vanth had it, but didn't go get it himself, but then knew Mando took it and then tracked him off planet so we'll see. Yeah, maybe it'll be some sort of hint to that or flashback.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, Finnick, I mean, she knows a lot that can really help Boba out. I mean, she um obviously, knows about Mando, knows that, he's out there in. But the one thing I always think about too, and we'll talk about a little bit later, is is she ever going to bring up the point that she actually hunted down Omega? I'm just wondering if that'll be ever going to pop up, like, hey, your clone sister, by the way, I tried to pick her up for a bounty. Did that conversation ever happen in the palace there? So I thought that would be pretty interesting to see how.
Yeah, I forgot. I kind of forgot that was how Fennec got introduced in Bad Batch, was being hired by I think the good faction of the scientists to protect her. Maybe I can't remember, but yeah, she got hired to go
Yeah.
track her
So
down.
so there's definitely some fun things out there that could really make this very interesting and stuff. So we'll have to see how that plays out if that ever gets brought up. Which I'm surprised. I really thought that with the big focus we had on Omega during the Bad Batch, that this would come up during the Book of Boba Fett. But
Mhm.
so far has not. So I thought that was kind of interesting as well. We got a few other people's watching. Courtney, Nikki, Mike. Thank you guys for checking us out and watching us through this Book of Boba Fett episode 4 review, kind of. And so then we go really interesting as we go back to the cantina. Max Rebo jamming out and everything, and this one just made it really interesting. Is for one, I love having another Wookiee in here. It's pretty awesome to see and everything, and then how everything escalated from this moment. I mean, what were your thoughts on this scene? I mean, we pretty much kind of knew that he would be back working with Boba Fett or something, helping him out, but it was kind of weird because obviously this was all set up. I mean, you could tell that Boba Fett tried something, but I mean, what were your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, like I think we talked about last time. I think the fact when he was like, don't work for scug holes or whatever he called them, and said, one bounty hunter to another, and let him go. I was like, okay, they're kind of setting this up that he's going to be a potential ally when they need some muscle. Because, I mean, look at the guy. So, but no, it was a cool scene. I mean, I'm not totally up to date on his backstory as much as some people have read all the comics and things, but clearly has a grudge against the Trandoshans. I'm guessing it goes back to his time being a gladiator fighter, kind of enslaved by some people. So maybe he just I see Trandoshans, I want to rip their arms off. But no, it was a cool scene, I think, just to, again, kind of show, when he took on Boba in the mod gang in the palace, and now he's taking on these guys kind of bare hand. Like, this guy is a force to be reckoned with for sure. And it's cool to see like a Wookiee, in full action like that.
I mean, anytime you get a Wookiee arm rip off, I mean, it definitely makes it. I mean, we had it in Solo, we've had it, now in here. So definitely a good shout out showing how Wookiees love to pull off people's arms. So can't
I do
ever complain about that.
Yeah, and I do find it interesting though that every time they walk into that cantina, we get like the required zoom in shot of Max Rebo playing music just to remind everybody, like, hey, look, Max Rebo's here.
Well, and she actually referred to him by Max too, which I thought was pretty interesting on this one. If you guys caught that, she did actually bring up his name, start playing again, Max, or bring it back or whatever. So that was kind of fun there too. It's kind of like the first time Boba Fett names get shot out in the Return of the Jedi, because he was always called the Bounty Hunter. So that was like the first kind of Max Rebo shout out there. So that was pretty fun on there. So obviously, we know the Pikes are up to something. We know something's going on. It's getting ready to go down. Tatooine is a hotbed. Obviously, for one, it's just outside the Outer Rim, so you don't have a lot of interference between the Empire and the Republic and everything. But I mean, the Pikes are ready to fight, and we're getting ready, and you can tell that they're scheming through there. So, Jabba, Boba Fett, obviously is trying to build up, relations with the other crime lords, around Tatooine, which I thought was kind of interesting, because it seemed like to me that like no one really wanted anything to do with this. It's kind of like the Pikes already laid the work, and everyone's kind of backing off, saying, hey, this is something that I don't want to mess with.
Yeah, that scene did not play out like I guess I expected it to. We knew this scene was going to occur at some point. It was in the trailer, so we knew there was going to be the big, kind of Godfather style sit down at the table. Yeah, I did not expect kind of all the factions basically be like, that sounds like your problem, and we're not going to help you at all. And the only thing Boba kind of wanted in return was, don't turn against me and join the Pikes. But we'll see. Like, when he mentioned, Finnick said, you trust them. And he said, well, I trust them to serve their own, own interests. So we'll see if they turn out to be allies or not.
And real quick here, we did get some comments here. For some reason, they came through really late here. Joe, how long do we think Boba was in the Sarlacc pit overall? It's hard to tell. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, there wasn't really a lot of smoldering fire pit. There wasn't a lot of scavenging. There was still some scavenging going on, but I don't know. I mean, that one, it's a good question, Joe, and I wish we did have the answers for that. Christopher, the excellent expressions of the Wookiee costume
Mm.
totally sells the character. I agree. Just sitting here and watching him as he was drinking and then looking over, and just you could tell he was just ready to fight. He just had those expressions
Hmm.
on his face, ready to go on there. So keep the comments coming. We definitely want to answer some of your questions or know your thoughts as we're going here. But going into this, it's just like no one wants to seem to deal with this. They kind of want to just let Boba take on himself, and whatever happens, happens. They didn't seem worried about losing anything or, losing their power and stuff like that. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Hmm.
Um, so I don't know, that part kind of threw me for a little bit because I really, the little Rancor sticking his hands up through the thing was pretty cool to show them that he meant
Hmm.
business.
Yeah.
But at the same point, what I mean, you can tell Boba's kind of going in this without a plan, and that's what I thought was pretty interesting. Um, I don't know. I mean, am I wrong on that, or you think that this is?
Yeah. No, I mean, again, I think his plan was, hey, we're gonna get the factions will kind of all join up because I don't know why they don't see the Pikes as being a danger to their own enterprises. Maybe because they think, well, the Pikes just run spice and that's all, and I don't do spice, so I don't care if the Pikes are doing that. But
Yeah,
again, we kind of go back to the fact that the Hutts were willing to basically just abandon all of Tatooine because of the Pikes. So there has to be more at play than just the Pikes want to run spice through here. Like they've got bigger aspirations for the Hutts to be like, no, I'm gonna bow out.
yeah, yeah. So there's definitely something. And I still think we're going to see Crimson Dawn somewhat involved
Hmm.
with this. So I'm anxious to see how that's going to work out because there's obviously someone else pulling some strings somewhere. Um, from the assassination attempt to the mayor working with the Pikes and things like that. I think that somebody else is doing this, and it's going to kind of go from there. Um, Tom, we the mixer droid. We talked about the droids in there as well. So there's a lot of fun shout outs with this thing. So after this meeting, everybody went their way, and we kind of know that they agreed that they would leave Fed alone and not kind of take sides and just kind of go on with their way. Which obviously it kind of already felt like that the Pikes have already talked to these people. At least that's what my feeling. They've already kind of been involved with this. And
Hmm.
Finnick said, I mean, can you trust them? And obviously, no. So, that leads us to a pretty interesting part in the story, and not just the fact that we know that he needs an army. For everybody who was watching, if you were listening to the music, as soon as he talked about hiring Muscle and Phoenix said, well, we can hire Muscle, obviously the Mandalorian theme song mixed in again, which obviously led us to the thought that, hey, we might be seeing good old Mando back
Hmm.
um, in here as well. So sorry about that. I don't know if the Pike one was in the wrong order there, but so Mando coming back, hopefully little baby Yoda will be staying back behind at the Jedi Academy. But do you think it's pretty much set in stone that we're going to see, Mando back in the next episode?
I mean, that certainly seems to be what they are indicating with that theme music. And like you said, the first time we heard a few notes of that was when they did you know, while the flares were going off and Finnick was was shooting at Mando and the other bounty hunter. Here's what Boba Fett was doing. So I think anytime now that they're referencing things from the Mandalorian series, they're going to use that theme
Yeah,
music. So yeah, I mean, I think they probably will. I mean, that seems to be the direction they're headed. Now, whether it's going to be Mando himself, is it going to be Bo-Katan and her crew? Is it going to be all of them? Who knows? I mean, I'm kind of excited to find out. Hopefully,
yeah,
in a couple
well,
hours here we'll get our answer to that because I'm definitely excited about the prospect of them pulling Mando and some of the other characters from the other series in.
yeah. I mean, and like you said with Bo-Katan and I mean, right now Mando technically is the leader of the Mandalorians. He has the dark
That's
saber.
true.
You know, as much as he really doesn't know, he's in charge now. I mean, if you really want to go into that, so is Bo-Katan and them going to kind of, follow him along? Because obviously, I got a feeling Bo-Katan's going to end up becoming a villain in season 3 because she's going to want that dark saber, and I mean, you can already tell that she was not too happy from there. But who are we going to see? And that's the question, because obviously, Mando is not going to be enough to take on this war. You're going to have Boba Fett, Mando, Fennec, a couple of Gamorrean guards, a Wookiee, and a Rancor. Which, I mean, a Rancor probably does set in your favor a little bit. If that Rancor is trained. But who? I mean, what? This is the one thing where it has been pretty quiet with rumors. Is usually, there's a lot of rumors out there by now. This is who we're going to see. This is who we're going to see.
Mm-hmm.
And really, the biggest rumor out there right now is still kind of the Han Solo making an appearance rumor. So, I mean, who else do you think, we could possibly get pulled into this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to remember who from like the bounty hunter days from Empire is still alive and out there.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Bosk is out there still. Maybe IG. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, the most obvious. Oh, yeah, Jim just chimed in with Bosk as well in the comments there. No, not Dash Rendar, I don't think, Justin, but you never know. Yeah, I mean, I think the most obvious thing is because they've kind of built this, Mando cinematic universe almost with,
Yeah.
Ahsoka and Boba Fett. Like everything's kind of, crosses and ties together because in the same time frame. So to me, the Mandos seem to be the most logical answer. And maybe like you said, with Mando being the leader, he makes the other ones come kind of begrudgingly because they obviously, from their encounter with Boba Fett, did not have any respect for Boba Fett whatsoever.
Yeah.
So it'll be an interesting dynamic, I think, if that
Yeah,
were to be the
and
case.
another thing, and if for any of you guys that follow me at the hashtag show, might have saw that I put up an article today, which if Star Wars fails on this, I will be let down because right now it is set up perfectly to bring back Dengar. I mean, if you think about everything that's going on, and if you know the history of of him, especially going up through the Rise of Skywalker, um, with the mod shop and everybody doing modifications. I mean, when you look at this picture, this is how he looks now at the Rise of Skywalker time. There's little hints in there in the visual guide and also on StarWars.com that hints that this is Dengar. So what I think is very interesting is obviously the groundwork is laid out perfectly to bring him in, into this picture. Um, if they use it, that'd be awesome. If not, then I think that's an epic fail on their part because obviously that stuff is set into the. So I don't know, but if they don't, I will be amazed if we do not see him in this. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, they introduced him in the visual guide that he's still alive at that time period for Rise of Skywalker. All the modifications, it definitely, all the breadcrumbs are there that if it does happen, oh, okay, yep, we should have seen this come. We should have seen this coming all along because they've
Yeah,
been kind of hinting at, this is a possibility.
yeah. So it'll be again. I'm just interested in seeing if we're going to see many of the bounty hunters. What's going to happen with this? 'Cause I really thought we would have seen some more by now. Which I guess if I do have some complaints about it, that's one of the things that I was kind of hoping we'd see some of those cameos. But some of the things that, and also for Jim out there watching, if we don't get Jar Jar here soon in one of these series, I'm going to be upset. But there goes all of our viewers. But it is interesting to see who will be next. Who's going to come in to help. Is he going to get all these bounty hunters together? Are we going to see it? It's hard to tell, and the way it's right now, it's no one knows how this series is going. I mean, look at everybody online right now. There's one media outlet out there. Not going to throw them out there by anything, but every article they write about the Book of Boba Fett is negative.
Hmm.
There's not one thing that they're happy about, and it's different. It's not what we're used to. But we got to remember this is kind of the way Star Wars is going, So The actors are telling us to expect some big things the next few episodes, so I think we're still going to be in for it on there. But I mean, overall in the series, Travis, are you still enjoying it, or is it something that you're kind of starting to lose interest now that we haven't got any of those big reveals yet?
No, I mean, my interest is still actually, maybe I'll admit, I was excited for the series. I'm not pale in comparison to being a fan of Boba Fett, when looking at you. So, you know, I was excited for it, but wasn't expecting a ton, so I didn't really know what to expect. But I'd say overall, the series has really met and exceeded any expectations I had.
Yeah,
I thought maybe they were going to focus too much on like, oh, he's going to try to like build up this like criminal empire, and he's going to be just kind of like, a bad guy and like killing people
Case
left and right. And I was
Goodfellas.
like, that's just gonna be almost like a villain sort of a guy. Yeah. Um, but I mean, we talked about this before. I loved the flashbacks with the Tuscan tribe, and I think finally we talked about that last time too. That hey, Boba Fett's a different person after spending all the time with the Tuscans, and he kind of alluded to that
Mhm.
when he was talking with Finnick over that campfire. That the Tuscans didn't make him soft. The Tuscans made him stronger, made him realize that having like a family, people you can count on, your tribe is what it's more about than being off on your own, tracking down
Yeah.
bounties solo all the time.
A couple good comments that just came through on here. Christopher says Cad Bane, please. I know a lot of Cad Bane. Justin Lee, Boba fixes up IG-88. That'd be kind of cool to see him back in anything, or even IG-11. Let's fix him up too while we're at it, and get a couple of assassin droids in there, which would be pretty fun. Jim, the Bad Batch. I mean, it is possible. That they could be. I mean, obviously, we have the actor here that can play just about any clone that we need, so we can have Rex and even Cody show up. And then Justin Lee. Justin Lee has a couple of good comments here. First off, Mr. Bones. That would be pretty badass, Justin, to see Mr. Bones appear in here. And then does Cad Bane die prior to these events, since Fett has the dent in his helmet already? If that is the actual canon, yes. But Justin, if one of the big things that I've talked about, and I know you all heard me, is the biggest disappointment I've had so far from this series is we still don't have the ultimate what made Boba Fett the ultimate bounty hunter, where everybody respected him as a bounty hunter. And the Cad Bane incident would have been the ideal, because Cad Bane was the top bounty hunter at the time, and if Fett took him out, then now Fett's the king of the bounty hunters. So I still would like to see that either in a flashback or something coming up. If not, hopefully though, it's in some. The more I think about it, the more I want it animated, because I told you before, Cad Bane I think is one that needs to stay kind of an animated character. But I don't know. I mean, that to go back on the question I asked you, Travis, I think that's what I still love the series. I have there's a couple things I don't, just like any other Star Wars thing. But at the same time, I'm very intrigued by how the story's going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Let's see here. Jim just chimed in. Cad Bane dying is not canon! ! So hopefully we'll get an answer for that soon, because Jim, sorry, I know I had to do this to you on Facebook here, but Jim's not having too good of a week with the Bills. And then me mentioning Jar Jar, and if Cad Bane, we find out he gets killed before this, and JJ or Jim's just gonna be a rough time for him. So but
yeah,
but
I mean,
yeah, so
I do hope at some point. To your point, I don't know if it should be live action. I think Cad Bane would be kind of an odd transition to live action, but I'm sure we'll see more of him, whether it's animated. In the Bad Batch, he shows back up. I think it's too good of a character for Disney to not do more with.
and then we got Kira is still a possibility. And I think that that's what I'm with the rumors with Solo possibly appearing here, or like the Luke Skywalker moment, the Mandalorian. I would honestly love to see those two face each other one more time, to kind of close the book and kind of go from there, especially since we'll probably never get Solo 2, which is a shame. But sorry, I rubbed Jim wrong there. He's going to cut somebody, so obviously Sorry about that on there, but yeah, I mean, we got there's going to be that big moment. Like I said, we're going to be thrown for a loop. Whether it's Han Solo or, like I said, my little cameo Poe Dameron, who could possibly show up as well, because we know he's running Spice at this time of his life.
Mhm.
Um, there's so much there. So going into episode 4 tomorrow, Travis and everybody else, I mean, what are you expecting? Do you think we're going to get are we done with the flashbacks? I mean, obviously he doesn't need the back to tank anymore.
Mhm.
It sounded like he was done with that. I mean, are we going to flashback anymore, or are these next 3 episodes, do you think it's going to be current time running and let's get to war?
Yeah, I guess kind of I took him coming out of the back to tank and the droid saying, "Oh, congratulations. You're now done with the back to tank." Sort of indicated to me that, okay, that's the last flashback. We've answered everything we needed to do, how we got his ship back, how we found Finnick. We're up to where you needed to be. So I don't
Yeah.
expect there to be any more flashbacks. So I think going forward, it's going to be really ramping up, because kind of similar to, I think, the other series, it's always, you know, builds up, kind of plateaus, and then, like the last 2 episodes really just, pick up the action and pick up the stakes, and there's just, cliffhangers and big reveals and things like that. So I think this series has been on a similar trajectory, where the first couple episodes were, again, have no issues with it. I think some people did, but building up the story, the character arcs, the development, so then pay it off at the end of the line, once you get to the
Yeah.
final episodes.
And then we do have agree no back to no flashbacks, which Jim, I kind of hope we're moving forward now and going kind of full steam there. Justin Lee, Kyle Katarn would be the ultimate mark out for me, or even Dash Rendar. Justin and Hunter. I know Hunter's probably not watching, but Jim, I hope you guys get Dash Rendar at some point, just so we can move on. Maybe he'll team up with Jar Jar and they'll start running some stuff there. But hopefully that'll happen at some point there. But yeah, I agree. I think we're going to get now into it's wartime. It's time to build. What'll be interesting is if they stay on Tatooine. Now that we're kind of up to where the ship and everything, Slave One, are we going to go?
Hmm.
Are we going to go off planet to start recruiting? That's what I think will be interesting, because I mean the whole time we've not left the planet, which I thought was been pretty interesting for Star Wars. Usually, we're jumping ship somewhere. I
Hmm.
mean, Mandalorian, he was on a ship, every other day, um, going to a different planet and stuff. So
Hmm.
it'll be anxious to see what's going on. But yeah, I really feel that the story will be complete if we kind of get that, like I said, that Spider-Man moment where you got Boba Fett pointing at Han Solo pointing at Kira, and you got the whole crew back together for one last little
Hmm.
hurrah and stuff. So I don't know. That's how I think that things will go on there. See if you
Yeah, I
guys
mean, we talked about it last time.
before.
I think just knowing the Kira series that's supposedly in development, I think at some point there'll be. I mean, Dis we haven't done it yet. Boba Fett shows up in Mando before Mando series, Bo-Katan shows up before Bo-Katan. So they always introduce a character in an existing series before it spins off into its own. So
Yeah,
to me, knowing that, it's a logical fit that she'll show up, and that again would be the reason why potentially you'd have a solo, cameo, maybe at the end, similar to Book of Boba Fett, like a post credits. Hey, introduce the Kira series, and he shows some sort of encounter with Solo, and that's what sets that all up.
Christopher says 80s A team montage. I'm good with that. That'd be great. Um, on there. So we see that. But what also I find interesting too is it's kind of like the Kevin Bacon thing. Ahsoka. It seems like she has her hands in everything that's kind of going on. Even though she hasn't been used a lot, but if you think about it, I mean, she's friends with Bo-Katan, she's friends with
Mm,
Sabine, she's friend, she knows, obviously knows Mando now. Is there a chance that we could see her? I mean, we still even know we know like Thrawn, as like you said, that somebody usually gets brought in that we know the story is going there. Obviously, we're setting up for Mandalorian season 3, but at the same time, could we see some of these other characters, pop in? Because right now it's a small universe, and it seems like we're
mhm,
seeing them pop up here and there.
right.
So, It says
Well, yeah,
Justin Lee commented, but I
Narsh,
can't read it. It's okay.
yeah,
Sorry,
no,
Justin, but my
well, yeah, Justin had mentioned a trip to Nar Shaddaa, which would be pretty cool to see some of those other planets we've seen in other media with video games and comics and stuff, but never in the live action.
yeah. So
Because yeah,
so
that
who
that
knows where we're
I am
gonna?
surprised. Well, I'm sorry. To your earlier comment, I am surprised that they never have left Tatooine yet. I was just always
Yeah,
expecting like, hey, it'll start on Tatooine, but it'll venture off and it'll do some things. But I mean, nope. So far, it's been locked into Tatooine, just kind of outside, the Mos Espa area.
yeah. I mean, who knows? Maybe even Cara Dune could make a comeback. You never know the way
Right.
these things go. So sorry if I upset anybody out there with that, but I mean, it's possible. You never know with Disney what they'll do on there. So obviously we got episode 5 tomorrow morning, which I'm excited. I'm sure I'll wake up again. For some reason, I seem to wake up right before the episode without an alarm clock. I don't know why.
It's your
Uh,
internal Boba clock.
but pretty excited about that. Um, so we'll be back again next week, everybody. I'm excited to be doing this weekly and talk about
Hmm.
the Book of Boba Fett. So until then, I also want to thank our sponsor, TRG Toys and Collectibles. Make sure you check them out at trgtoys.com for any of your collectibles needs from Marvel to Star Wars. They have it all there. So I want to say thank you for them. Also want to thank the hashtag show. You can also follow Travis and I both at the hashtag show. Again, Travis at the Indiana Sloan. Can't talk now. My throat's all backed up, and then me at Star Wars Nerd 574. We really enjoy this. We appreciate you guys watching and listening to us talk.
Hmm.
We love all the questions, all the comments coming in. And it looks like, let's see if we got any more. It looks like we finished up for the night on that as well. So again, I just want to thank you all for making this group awesome. We got a lot of great plans. Again, to talk about everything that we got going on. Christmas in July for Ronald McDonald House. The May 4th silent auction. We just got some more items donated for that that I've donated. And I got some more coming on the way, which I'm pretty excited about to share with you guys as well. We are still working on doing official glass this year. Again for the auction, so I can't wait to reveal the ideas that's come up with that. It'll be fun. Obviously, last year we had Darth Maul, which was pretty cool from
Hmm.
there. So again, thank you all. Thank you TRG Toys and Collectibles for sponsoring us, and make sure to follow us both at the hashtag show.